Hello and welcome back to Joey's Sewing. My name is Jo and this is my YouTube channel all about sewing. And today I'm going to tell you what I have been sewing in February. Now I should start by saying I think it's a flipping miracle I sewed anything in February because my sewing machine has been behaving very badly. Even up until yesterday it was away being fixed, which you may know if you've watched other videos on my channel. It was away being fixed for about a week and it was serviced and it's come back, and initially it was fine, but now it's started playing up with certain types of fabrics and certain stitches, but not with everything. So I've got a little bit of working out whether it's something I'm doing or whether it needs to go back again. So that's been fun. That's been a big part of February. So I have got four and a bit things to show you about February, and I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. I'm going to step back so you can see. I just realised I'm still wearing my socks. Okay, I'm going to step back so you can see. There you go. It is a dress that I have made of, we've got pockets here. I made it intending for it to be like a pinafore dress. It has this yoke here, which is also around to the back. It has that button fastening. And here's the pattern. It's a new look pattern. I am pretty sure it won't still be in print because I will have had it a long time. In fact, I can see, okay, maybe it is still in print because it came free with a magazine, with Sew magazine. So if you want to have a look for it, it is K6263. However, if you want to know my opinion of it, I'm not into this all that much. I'm not sure it's all that flattering. I was after a pinafore type dress. As you know, I'm a pear shape, so my waist is kind of really there, and this is a bit more whoa, like that. I have a couple of dresses that I wear as tunics that are this kind of shape, well, not this yoke, but that sort of body shape, and I think they work okay. So I'm not quite sure what I'm not loving about this. I think it might be that I've made it a really frumpy length. So I think I've just made it, I don't like showing my knees, so I've made it just below knee length, but I think I've just made it slightly too long. I might go back and shorten it, but because I'm not feeling the love, I'm not all that motivated to do it, so we'll see. I attempted to do a little sort of sashiko thing, the Japanese embroidery thing, but also I didn't get into it and it didn't show up as much, and I probably should have used embroidery thread. So it was a learning experience. I just used regular thread held double, and it hasn't really shown up. It gets completely lost in this pattern. Probably should have used either a different colour or a thicker thread, and that might have worked better. I'll probably return to that idea. I think the other thing that I wasn't loving about this is it wasn't easy to make, and it should have been easy to make. The instructions for putting on the yoke were awful. I don't usually have any problem following instructions, but they were just so complicated for something that really felt like it shouldn't be that complicated. And do you know what, it's a long time since I last followed a Big Four pattern. So this is like a Big Four brand, isn't it? And I think that might be it. I think I've been spoilt by following indie patterns and having to go back to the way that these guys tend to explain things. I realise how much you're given when you've got sew-alongs, when you've got things that other people have sewn and you can Google it, and you know, because there's such a big community of people who talk about what they've done online, and a lot of the time it's an indie pattern, isn't it? So I didn't have any of that assistance, and we'll see. So this one, I think it might come a little bit more into its own in the warmer weather. I'm not going to do anything about it until it gets warmer, because I do have this thing about getting my legs out basically, and so I might want it a bit longer when it gets warmer. So I'm going to leave it, I'm going to decide, and we'll have a final verdict. But that was the first thing that I sewed in February. Second thing I'm also wearing, it's not this, it's the leggings. So the second thing I sewed was the Avery leggings from Helen's Closet. And I will step back so you can have a look. They're very functional. They're under here. So they come in a very super high-waisted version, and that's what I did. And I just did well, I thought I was doing the general length because this pattern comes in a high-waisted version and a kind of not quite hipster but waisted version. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. A lower waisted version. It also comes in two lengths, one which is supposed to be the length of your legs with no gathering, and then another which kind of bunches at the bottom, and that's a style choice. I didn't choose to do that because I have quite large ankles. I don't have beautiful slender ankle bones, and so to bunch something up around there, I'm not comfortable doing that. However, I appear to have managed to do that anyway. I'm not sure if it's the fabric or this is drafted for a slightly taller person and I didn't adjust it, but I did cut a bit off at the end, so it might just be the fabric, but they do bunch a little bit at the bottom, but I can hitch them up. Now what is unique about this pattern and why I chose this one is this piece here. So it's what's called a gusset, and a gusset is an insert. You can have a gusset in the armhole as well as in the crotch. Those are the two places off the top of my head that you would put them. If you know somewhere else that you might put a gusset, tell us in the comment down below, because I'm always interested in that kind of little fact about sewing. So yeah, these have a gusset in the crotch. So basically underneath, between my legs, there is that little triangular piece of fabric. And that means that they have a much more comfortable range of movement. So instead of a seam going right up there, because these are obviously a very stretchy, very close-fitting garment, and even though the fabric stretches, you do notice where the seams run. So rather than having a seam just from your tummy whoop, all the way around to your bottom, right in the centre, which can be quite uncomfortable and also can restrict movement, it has that triangular insert. Here we go. Can you see that? So the flat part is at the front and it tapers away towards my bottom. Now when you're wearing that, it's completely invisible. You cannot see the gusset either from the front or the back, and I'm a yoga teacher and I've done a bit of contorting because I was curious about whether it would show. It doesn't show, but I do think it shows in the fit. Now I intend these to be a layering piece, so I'm not really thinking anyone's going to see my bum in them, but if I made them out of slighter fit there, if I made them out of a slightly thicker fabric, I would prefer the fit of these to a regular legging, because it just fits your curves much more nicely. I think the design of these is fantastic. I was a little bit confused about the waistband insertion, and I'm not 100% in love with how I ended up doing it. Again, it's fine because no one's going to see it, it's not lumpy and it functions, but I wasn't sure about the instructions, and I think I totally haven't had my instruction head on this month, definitely. I've been wading through treacle, but I did expect a little bit more from Helen's Closet, because she has a podcast and she is just so knowledgeable. It's fantastic. If you haven't listened to it, it is called Love to Sew. She's Canadian and she does it with a woman called Caroline, who runs a Canadian fabric store called Blackbird Fabrics, and they both do a wonderful podcast, so I'm a bit of a fangirl for them, to be honest. But yeah, I wasn't totally into the description of the waistband, and I'm meaning to send her a message and just ask if I got something wrong, or if she's going to do a little photographed sew along on her blog. I mean, I know leggings aren't a complicated thing to make, but yeah, wasn't sure. But I like the garment in the end, so that is all good. Item number 3 is a skirt, and I'll put it on for you, so hang on. If you saw my When Sewing Goes Bad video, which I put up about a week ago, you will have seen me struggling to make this flipping skirt. I will stand back so you can see it. It is a really basic skirt. It's slightly A-line, it has a yoke, and it has an invisible zipper here, which you won't be able to see at that distance. it does. There it is. Yeah, it was meant to be a really plain, functional piece of clothing that I could use to dress more bright things with, and it does fit that bill, but it was way too complicated to make. Again, I wasn't getting it, my head wasn't in there. I was making this one up. I wanted a yoked skirt and I knew I didn't have one, but I also knew I had a zillion skirt patterns I hadn't used, so I took this one, which again, I'm sure it's probably so old it will class as vintage. It is New Look 6468. There you go. Heaven knows how long I've had it. A long time. Definitely more than 10 years. And I had never cut into it. So I cut into it and it has this plain skirt. There's the line drawing. Oopsie daisy. There's the line drawing. Yeah, the light's going bonkers. Has a plain skirt with a waistband. I didn't want a waistband. I wanted a yoke because I just find that more flattering on my tummy. I started off making it and I was following entirely the wrong instructions. I wasn't even following the right instructions out of the right packet because I had a couple of things around. And then I thought I can't follow the instructions. So then I got this out, which is Simplicity 5351. You can see that's a yoked skirt. Now I didn't use that because I didn't want it to be so flippy at the bottom. And there is an A-line version with pleats, which is that one, the one that she's wearing. I've made it before and I know it's cut out in a size that's too small. So I basically hacked up the first pattern, added a yoke, and then used this second pattern in order to have an idea of the order of construction. And I was just trying to, this was when my sewing machine broke and when it was away, and I was trying to do an invisible zipper insertion without a zipper foot. I have since found an amazing video by Kenneth D. King, and someone on my comments put me onto it, and then YouTube also popped it up for me on how to flawlessly and without an invisible zipper foot insert a visible zipper. So if you want to do that, I will link it below. It is really good, and the technique, I haven't tried it, but the technique totally makes sense to my brain, which is something, and I can see how it would work really well. So I'm going to try that next time I find myself in that scenario. But yeah, it's okay. I've worn it, and I wore it with this fella. This is not something I made this month, but I wore it with this, and sure enough, I got lots of compliments for this lovely Granville shirt that I made. I don't know, it's not been on the channel before, but I made it a few months ago. And that's what it was for. It was a plain, neutral, basic to wear much brighter bits and pieces with. So it was a success in that sense. It was blooming painful to make. It's a bit of a story of this month, isn't it? So that is 3 things, and here is the 4th. Now the 4th, you saw the fabric in my fabric haul video from about a week ago, maybe even slightly less. I'm going to show you the insides and then I'll put them on. It is these red trousers. Are they red enough for you? So these are definitely not a neutral basic, although I just wanted to show you the inside. So this is what I've chosen for the pockets. This is the inside of the front. There is the fly facing, and then here is the inside of the back. And these are the Thurlow trousers by Sewaholic, and one of the features of them is this super wide seam allowance. So the seam is here, and as you can see it tapers, but it gets really wide at the top, and that is really intentional. It's a men's tailoring technique, and it means that you can pretty much sew them all the way together without this, then baste this and decide whether they fit, and you've got a lot of leeway to fit the trousers. And if they are drafted and intended for curvy shapes, although you could wear them if you were more straight up and down, they would just fit differently. But what this does really well for curvy shapes is you can pinch it in really narrow at the waistband and then let it out to go over your curvy bottom and to allow for your hips and stuff. So they're the inside of my Thurlow trousers. Hold on there, I'll put them on. In all honesty, these are not finished because I haven't done the hand sewing yet. So I prefer to hand sew hems a lot of the time, so I haven't done that. And I haven't hand sewn the button and the bar on, but I can pin them shut and you can have a look at how they are. So they're pinned shut. And this is pretty much where the hem will be. So there you go. This is what we look like. So it curves in really nicely up here. So comfortable. This, as I said, this fabric was on my super bright fabric haul. I'll link to it down below and at the end of the video, but go back there if you want to know all about the fabric. It is a stretched cotton drill, and I love these. So these are the star of the month because these I love. I haven't worn them out yet, but I'm going to wear them tomorrow, I hope, when I go to university. They fit fantastically, they stretch, everything went okay when I was sewing them. I didn't lose my mind, I didn't break my machine, all is good. So yeah, I am very pleased with these. Thurlow is a pattern that I have made. This is the 4th pair of Thurlow trousers and I've made them as a short, so you know, if you count that, that's 5 times I've made this pattern. So I do know it, and all the others were first time goes, so you know, there is that. I reflecting Sewaholic pattern, there's the line drawings, and as I said, these are definitely my star of the month. These are my favourite and I'm totally in love with them. So it's good to end on a high note. I have been sewing a couple of other things, but I'm going to leave those for my next video because they're not for me and they've been for World Book Day, so I've been doing that madness again. That's it for today. Thank you very much. I have high hopes that March is not going to be quite so... Please subscribe, like, all of that stuff, ask any questions, have a conversation down below. It's a lot of fun and I love doing it. Thank you for being there. Bye.